Somewhere at the world's edge, in the heart of the planet's largest desert, lies a mystery sought by philosophers, archaeologists, and dreamers for centuries: the Richat Structure, the Eye of the Sahara. From above, the Richat Structure looks like a giant eye gazing into eternity. A perfect ring, like a pupil frozen in stone. Century after century, this eye watches as rivers vanish, civilizations crumble, and eras change. For a long time, it was considered just a whim of nature. But as we looked deeper, we saw this eye holds a much older secret, and far more important than we could imagine. When we hear Atlantis today, images of vanished cities, sunken palaces, ancient wisdom, and the fall of a great civilization come to mind. But where did this legend even come from, and why does it still haunt us? The story of Atlantis first appears in the works of Plato, the great philosopher of ancient Greece. In the dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he tells of a powerful state that existed thousands of years before his time. A civilization that owned vast territories and possessed immense wealth, and perished in one terrible day and night. Atlantis sank into the sea. The earth shook, waters rose, and the great and mighty state disappeared, leaving behind only a muddy and impassable sea. But Plato did not claim to have invented this story. He referred to the tale of his great-great-grandfather Solon, one of Greece's greatest lawmakers. According to Plato, Solon learned about Atlantis during his travels in Egypt, and he heard this story not just anywhere, but in the temple of the goddess Neith in the ancient city of Sais. It was there, among columns covered with ancient writings, that Egyptian priests told Solon about a great state that existed long before the first dynasties of Egypt, about a continent beyond the Pillars of Hercules that fell victim to a terrible disaster. These priests claimed that Atlantis existed 9,000 years before Solon's time. If recalculated, it refers to 12,000 years ago, a time that coincides with the end of the last ice age and the time of the mysterious Great Flood mentioned in many myths around the world. But how could Egyptian priests know about such ancient events? What sources did they have? There is a version that in ancient times there were archives, huge repositories of knowledge, recorded on stone tablets in encrypted texts, possibly lost over time. Plato mentions that Egyptian scrolls preserved the history of a distant past, destruction, catastrophes, cycles of floods and rebirths. If these stories are to be believed, the Sahara we know today as an endless desert was very different in the past. Indeed, modern research confirms that 12,000 years ago, the Sahara was wet and rich in vegetation, and thousands of years later, during the so-called Green Sahara, about 7,000 years ago, rivers flowed again, forests rustled, and herds grazed here. What if the Egyptian priests really preserved memories of two different eras? Of the first, a highly developed civilization that disappeared in the Great Flood, and of the second, a more modest wave of life that returned to the Sahara after millennia of desert. Perhaps in the memory of ancient peoples, the legends of Atlantis were not just myths. Perhaps they are echoes of real catastrophes that occurred long before the advent of writing, fragments of lost knowledge about worlds erased by time. And if today we search for Atlantis, among the stones of the Sahara, among the traces of ancient rivers and mysterious drawings on the walls, perhaps we continue the same journey for truth that Solon began, and through him, Plato himself. And maybe part of the answers is already before us. We just need to know how to listen, see, feel, and remember. The greatest secrets of the world are often hidden in plain sight. For centuries, Atlantis has been sought in the ocean, on islands, under ice. But what if Plato recorded memories of a disaster that happened on land? Of a place that was once green, full of life, and then disappeared under the onslaught of the elements. Over the past 3 years, our team has conducted 4 expeditions to the Richat Structure, and with each new trip, it became more obvious. We stand on the brink of a great discovery. We have discovered dozens of straight channels crossing the stone desert for many kilometers. They are like scars on the dried land, incredibly straight lines, such that nature rarely creates on its own. Almost all channels lead directly to the center of Richat. Others diverge, as if remnants of an ancient engineering system. Could these channels be part of Atlantis, as Plato wrote? Perhaps these are the last traces of a vanished civilization. We explored the inner rings of the structure and found traces of massive water flows, dried riverbeds, silt deposits that were once lake bottoms, and perhaps most surprisingly, traces of hot springs. Just like those Plato mentioned, sources of cold and hot fresh water. This land remembers much. About 12,000 years ago, an ancient civilization, possibly Atlantis, was destroyed by a great catastrophe. The continental land was erased. Only ruins remain, hidden by time. Millennia passed, the world changed. The Sahara, once perished, turned green again. Around 7,000 years ago, rivers flowed here again, savanna stretched, herds of animals grazed, and people returned here. We found traces of their lives, primitive stone tools, arrowheads, knives, scrapers, and rock paintings, hunters, bulls, camels, elephants, as Plato wrote. All these are scenes of peaceful life in a blooming Sahara. But these people were very different. They didn't build palaces. They didn't erect cities. Their culture remained at the level of sticks and stones. They didn't live here long. When the climate changed again and the Sahara began to dry, rivers disappeared and pastures turned into a merciless desert, people left or vanished, leaving behind only a thin layer of traces lost in the sands. And today, like in the layers of an ancient book, we see traces of 2 worlds. The world of the perished advanced civilization of Atlantis, and the world of simple people who survived the catastrophe. But if we can explain the disappearance of the last people by climate, the disappearance of an entire civilization remains a mystery. What destroyed Atlantis? We studied data on a colossal underwater landslide off the coast of Mauritania. Such an event could have caused a giant mega tsunami wave that swept everything in its path in an instant. Cities, roads, temples, all vanished without a trace. Perhaps what we see now are just silent ruins, surviving 2 catastrophes. One wiped out the civilization, another swallowed the remnants of life. All these facts form a strange, frighteningly plausible picture. The structure of the Richat matches Plato's description perfectly. Rings of land and water, sources of hot and cold water, mountains to the north, huge straight channels, rocks of various colors matching the white, red and black stone of Atlantis. Even the size of the inner ring matches the size of Atlantis's capital, about 23 kilometers. Too many coincidences to dismiss as chance. In November 2025, we embark on the 5th expedition. This time not only on land, we are preparing a sea expedition along the coast of Mauritania. With the help of underwater drones, we will explore the seabed for debris, ancient structures and anomalies that might have escaped the human eye. Perhaps the secret of Atlantis is hidden not only under the sands, but also beneath the waters of the Atlantic. And you can be part of this great adventure. Join us. Walk through the rings of the forgotten city. Feel the ancient roads beneath your feet. Gaze into the eyes of the Sahara and maybe touch the legend that still haunts humanity. Atlantis. Perhaps it has already been found. Now it needs to be seen.